am unwell. I feel like a teenage girl again. I feel like I need to put my hair in a braid, and it is all because of Sunrise on the Reaping. I finished reading Sunrise on the Reaping last night, and I've just been trying to regroup since I put the book down. I swear everything Suzanne Collins touches just turns to gold. I was like unprecedented levels of excited for this book. I get excited for my yearly Emily Henry books. I'm excited for my yearly Carly Fortune books. But the way I was excited for this, it just unleashed like the 14-year-old version of myself back into the universe. And it lived up to the hype. Honestly, it might have exceeded my expectations. This book was so good. For anyone who doesn't know, Sunrise on the Reaping is another prequel to The Hunger Games. It takes place between The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes and the original trilogy, and it is all about Haymitch and his games, which were also the second quarter quell. And the thing with the second quarter quell is that instead of 24 tributes, 48 tributes were reaped from every district, twice the amount, twice as evil, and yeah, this was about as brutal as you would expect with that premise. I will have some non-spoilery thoughts before I dive deep into spoilers, but the first thing I have to say is that this is the Avengers Endgame of YA. I I can't say anything else. I know a lot of people say like this is my end game, and I felt like I could never really say that because I love the Avengers and I was there at the midnight premiere of Endgame. But then I read this and I was like, "Oh wait, no. This might actually be my end game." This is just great. It's well written, it's well paced, it is impactful. The Hunger Games I already basically consider a classic. If not, I think it will undoubtedly be considered one in the future. Suzanne Collins knows what she's doing, and this story hits all the fan service and fills out the world of Panem without being like a cheap cash grab. It feels necessary and it feels like the missing puzzle piece out of the original trilogy and the original prequel. And this is really different from The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes for me. That actually took me a couple years to actually like sit down and read, but this I was so excited because the thing with that is maybe you're curious about Snow, but I don't think anyone loves him as a character, especially like what we know of him in the originals. And then you learn to love or like Lucy Gray, but you're kind of going into that not sure what you're going to get. But this, like the protagonist is a character that even if you don't love him, you're attached to him, you're invested in his story, you've gotten like a sneak peek of his backstory, but you know that there's still so much more that we don't know. And that's a big part of the reason that I think myself, as well as what seems like the entire internet, has been so like invested in reading this book. It feels like everyone is locked in and just can't get enough because we've been wanting to know all these things. We've been wanting to know how Haymitch got to the terrible place we first see him in. So yeah, this was just really fulfilling for that purpose. I think that this is so much darker than any of the other books. Like, it takes the cake by far, in my opinion. It combines that inhumane treatment of the tributes that we see in the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes with like the most violent, gruesome deaths that we've seen so far. Of course, there's ones that are kind of swift and like quick, if you will, similar to other ones we've seen, but then there are other ones and other fates of characters that had my jaw hanging open. There are just scenes, and so many scenes, and plot points that are unbearably cruel, things that make Glimmer being mobbed by the Tracker Jackers look tame in comparison. Even so, it still fits into the YA genre, it's still appropriate. I think even with the knowledge that a lot of the readers and the fan base are adults now, Suzanne Collins still catered to the original genre and making sure it fit with the rest of the trilogy. The last non spoilery thing I will say is that Haymitch is just as sharp and funny and rebellious as ever. He is a great protagonist to follow, and you honestly just can't help but root for him. I have met a lot of people actually who don't love Katniss as a protagonist, but I don't see how you can't like Haymitch. He is the best, and you learn so much more about him, which I've said, but like there's just so many more layers to him, and I'm so glad we got that insight. Now on to the spoilers. So do not watch this if you have not finished the book, or if you care about spoilers, just come back and we can chat. But I couldn't make this video without diving into some specifics. Chapter 1 alone is full of Easter eggs and bits of lore and what you could call fan service, but again, it's not cheap, it's not like a gotcha moment. It is earned, and it's basically just showing all these little connections and people who interact that inform the rest of the series, and literally how the revolution happens and things that tie back to the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Like, it is fan service, but it all feels very necessary. Based on her name, people kind of figured this out, kind of already knew it, but Haymitch's girlfriend, Lenore Dove, is Covey, like Lucy Gray, which it was so nice that that is actually a thing and it was confirmed. Her being Covey is so important to the story, literally informs Snow's relationship with Haymitch, Snow's relationship with the District 12 tributes in general. It is so necessary that she has this connection back to Lucy Gray, and just extra fuel for Snow to have against Haymitch. The friends and the side characters, seeing them was just amazing. Like, we know Katniss's mom was friends with Maisie and her twin sister, who is Madge's mom. Plot twist, Haymitch's best friend, one of them, is Katniss's dad. Crazy. And you get hints at him and Katniss's mom like having crushes on each other and having a little thing going on. Peeta's dad is mentioned, I believe, at the Reaping. It was just really crazy. You hear about these characters as grown-ups. You know the fate of like Peeta's family not making it out of the bombings. Katniss's dad dying, of course. Like, Madge's mom and her don't make it out of the bombing either. And it's so sad because it's like they were once kids as well, hoping that they didn't get reaped in the Hunger Games. Like, it's just this vicious cycle, but it also really fills out the community and the lore of District 12. I could have read so much more about their interactions back in 12. Also, in the first chapter, Haymitch says he's not much of a drinker, and as soon as I read that line, I had to like put the book down, take a second. My heart broke into a million pieces because, of course, we know what happens to him post games, and it's just so sad that the Haymitch we first meet, it's probably something he wouldn't have even been able to fathom. One of the biggest surprises in this book was that Haymitch wasn't reaped. I was reading it and my eyes were like flying over the page, like, what are we doing here? Basically, the second boy is reaped and he tries to make a run for it. Peacekeepers kill him instantly, and then Lenore Dove is trying to like get in the thick of things, and while trying to protect her, their escort just kind of like volunteers Haymitch and says, "Okay, it's you," and that seals his fate. But it was so crazy because I've never imagined anything but him being reaped like any other tribute. Speaking of their escort, when I saw the name Plutarch Heavensbee in this book, I was like, no way. No freaking way. He's not the escort. The escort sucks so badly. He's kind of like a part of the film and publicity crew for District 12, and he kind of feels like a second escort of sorts. Like, he's always around. He really tries to be there for Haymitch, guide Haymitch, and you see all those little sprinkles of the rebel that we know he is in the future. It is perfect setup for his character and a wonderful introduction for where we see him in Catching Fire. Based on how we see Katniss and Peeta being treated in the capital, and kind of how they describe what they want to do with the games going forward in the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, I really thought that these tributes would be treated like royalty, like everything would be beautiful spreads of food and nice outfits and fancy lodgings until they get to the games. But it really wasn't like that. All of the tributes share a room. They're like chained up when they first get to the capital. Their food is better than what they're used to in 12, but nothing like spectacular for the most part. And when they get to the capital, they strip them all naked, divide them into boys and girls, and shove them in a room where they spray them down with chemicals. Like they're literally treated like animals. And I really thought that it's the quarter quell, like figure it out. The mentors, oh my God. So, as we know, District 12, no known living victors. So, what they do is they recruit mentors from the other districts. The first mic drop, Wyrus from District 3, and she's still a teenager. Like, she's the winner from the year before, and she's set up as one of their mentors. And the second mic drop, when I saw the name Mags, guys, and reading that and remembering how eager Katniss was to team up with Mags and Wyrus and Beetee, and knowing that like she and Haymitch have this connection that this book shows, like it runs so much deeper than either of them even realize. But knowing that and knowing the things Haymitch, like the fondness he had for Mags, it's just, it's too much. Speaking of Beetee, one of the most heart-wrenching details. I was so shocked. I never would have guessed in a million years that this would have been how he was tied up in Haymitch's story. Basically, Beatty was trying to like mess with the Capitol's computer system or electric system, like really just try to blow it all up. And in retaliation, obviously he didn't get away with it, and they decided to throw his freshly 12-year-old son into the Hunger Games. And Beatty's very smart. He knows that his son has no chance. Like they are going to kill his son. Nothing is going to allow him to be the winner of the Hunger Games because they want Beetee to watch. When Beetee was revealed as his father, I gasped, and then I was like, this can't get much worse. And then his son is given what, when I'm thinking about it, I think is the most terrible death that we see. The way the aftermath is described, again, had my jaw wide open. Like it made me sick to my stomach. Luella dying before the games and then being replaced by like a child prisoner AI combo is one of the darkest things that I think has ever happened in these books. It, again, another like jaw drop moment for me. And I'm not going to say I can't believe Suzanne Collins went there, but just, wow, what a political statement on the state of the world and AI and the terrible consequences that it has and might have on our society. So, just another reminder that AI is terrible and we do not need it. Snow is a pain in the ass. He is projecting on Haymitch and Lenore Dove like crazy. So he makes it very clear that he knows that he has a girlfriend and that she's Covey as soon as they meet, and he's super annoying about it. One of the quotes he says is that all of the birds I've encountered are vicious, and I was kind of gagged at him referencing Lucy Gray and his relationship to the Covey and these songbirds. So obviously, but also like being hung up on his situationship 40 years later. Crazy. Crazy work. I'll take this opportunity to say, without reading or watching The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, this book would still make sense. I personally would not touch it with a 10-foot pole because so many of the things that happen in that book informs this story, even in little ways, like knowing about Lucy Gray and the Covey and Snow's history with District 12 changes everything. It makes everything more impactful, and I just feel like a lot of the references and invisible strings, if you will, would be lost on you, and they're too valuable to not be catching. Also, reading it and knowing all the tunes of the songs that they're singing and talking about is, it's just a lot better. Just when you think we got all the cameos, Effie Trinket shows up right before the games, and I could not have been more excited to see her. Her younger sister is a part of the prep team as a part of like a school project, and Effie's so young as well. She's implied to be maybe late teens, early 20s, just a bit older than her sister. And it literally changes everything you know about Haymitch and Effie's relationship with the knowledge that they've known each other for 25 years. Like obviously she's been the escort for a hot minute, but knowing that Haymitch was so young when they met, I never envisioned it that way. I kind of thought he was like a grizzled mentor by the time they met. But knowing that he was 16 and she was trying to help the District 12 tributes with their interview outfits and getting sponsors, don't talk to me. I can't. So in Catching Fire, we got a decent amount of insight into Haymitch's games. Like, we know the beautiful but poisonous arena. We see how he won. We see Maisley's death. And I'm pretty sure we hear about the volcano as well. But the things that go on in this arena, some of it makes Katniss's games look like a walk in the park. Terrible, violent, everyone is set up to fail. Mutts and their surroundings are trying to kill them at every turn. Some of the mutts are programmed to only kill specific tributes. So when Haymitch is trying to help his allies, there's literally nothing he can do. Something else we didn't know and I couldn't have predicted was that there was actually a plan to blow up the arena. It was Beatty and his son's little plan, and they roped Haymitch in on it. And while it's not successful, the way it is in Catching Fire, it was just absolutely mental that the third quarter quell was not their first go at this, at trying to blow up the arena, at trying to like outsmart the game makers in such a large way. And the fact that Beatty and Haymitch were the two working parts of it, and then the two of them come together with Plutarch and a bunch of the other allies in Catching Fire, and it's successful finally. It just feels like such poetic justice for Beatty's son, and of course for all of the tributes for like every good character in these books. The ending is so bleak. I wasn't expecting a happy ending. Like, we know how Haymitch turns out. We know that his family and his girlfriend were killed by the Capitol when he outsmarted them. But reading it hurts so badly, and reading him talk about how he has no hope, and on his birthday every year he just goes to coach more kids to their death. Like, it is so so bleak. My heart was just broken reading that final paragraph. Of course, the epilogue kind of softens the blow. Like, we see that Haymitch does live a nicer life with Katniss and Peeta by his side. They're his found family, but it is still, it's bittersweet at best, because he lost his family, he lost the love of his life, and even though he has these new people that have like reminded him about what love is and all that, he's lost so many more people that he's never really going to be the same. And yeah, those were my thoughts on the Hunger Games: Sunrise on the Reaping. Amazing, amazing. I think it's too soon to declare where this fits in my ranking of the books, but oh my god, it was so good. On the one hand, I'm sad that I rushed through it, but on the other hand, I couldn't put it down. So it was inevitable. I'm so stoked that the movie is already in the works. It is going to go so hard. My only wishes are that they cast some new up and coming actors that look like teenagers, because I think one of the few faults of the original trilogy is that they don't look like teenagers, and I think it is to the movie's detriment a lot. I would also love if they gave Cooper Hoffman and Kiefer Sutherland calls in case they want to play young Snow and young Plutarch, because I think honestly both of them would do very good jobs playing these younger versions of their fathers. But of course, that would like, I think that's a hard thing to do. It could be really emotional. So if they were up for it, if they thought it would be right for them, I would love to see it, because they're both very good actors. But honestly, I'm excited to see anyone in these roles. Like, I'm so excited for this movie. November 2026 cannot come soon enough. Please comment down below your thoughts, your feelings, your opinions, any like fan cast you have. I would love to chat with you about this. I will be thinking about this book for days, if not weeks or longer. It was amazing. I can't say enough good things about it. And thank you so much for being here. I will see you next time. Bye.